All right, welcome in everybody. Patriots post-game live. We're starting a little bit early today because this one is over. An absolute thrashing of the Jets, putting up 54 points in the process. And I don't know, they might not be done. As I say that, I think they'll just pretty much knee it out, and this will bring an end to this game. But the Patriots trouncing the Jets 54-13. And after picking up the fumble recovery there on that last play before the 2-minute warning, this one is over. So an incredible day for the Patriots. Even though it was against the Jets, I think that a lot of people will be quick to talk about the fact that this win maybe means a little bit less since it was against a team as bad as the Jets. But when you put up for 54 on any team, it's pretty impressive. It does remind me a little bit of last year's win against the Chargers. I know that, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people drawing those parallels, but last year against the Chargers, the Patriots have a similar dominant showing against that team, against a rookie quarterback, obviously in this situation. Zach Wilson gets knocked out, but and then 45-0 against the Chargers, the victory was last year. And the Chargers actually went on to win a few games after that. I think they won their last 4 after that. That lost at the hands of the Patriots. But, the Patriots go on to win that game 45-0. They look great. I think they moved to 500 after that game. People thought maybe this, helps them get the momentum they need to get to the playoffs and whatnot. But ultimately, it was a one-off. It didn't mean much. So I think that the big idea coming out of this game is you hope that the Patriots can build off of this. It's something they weren't able to do a lot last year, and they haven't been able to do a lot so far this year, in their 2 wins, of course. So that's something that certainly you might have some concern about, some level of concern about if, you're hoping for the Patriots to spurn this into a run here, because look, it's great, but it's great that they beat the Jets 54-13, but the rest of the season, you're not going to play the Jets anymore. So can you do it against other teams as well? Like, you got to hope you can do that. I will say some encouraging signs from the standpoint of, a couple weeks ago, they played the Texans, and they get back down big to the Texans early in that game. And they come back and they win, and they just barely beat the Texans. And you think, well, you shouldn't be just barely beating the Texans. You should have a fairly easy time beating a team like that is, that kind of that terrible, and that, beat up in the Texans. And so, you go into the next week against the Cowboys, you lose, but you play close, and you play a team that, unlike the Texans, isn't terrible. And you at least, you came really close to winning that game, and you can say, well, you played a good Cowboys team and you competed with them. You went into overtime. And so, are the Patriots competitive? Can they be good against these good teams? Can, they still haven't proven they can beat them, but at least they can, they show they have a chance against them. So that happens. And then they come out this week and they blow out the Jets. So that should at least put a little bit of, a little bit of solace in everybody's heart that, okay, this isn't a terrible football team. This can be a good football team. This is like, the Jets are terrible. The Patriots are clearly much, much better than that, especially after the performance they put up today. So, the question now is that how does that show up when you now have to go play the Chargers or the Titans in the coming weeks or anything like that, So next week, I mentioned 45-0 last year. Now they play the Chargers, different head coach. They're playing a little better, coming off a bye week. How does that affect them? Of course, the Jets are coming off a bye week too, so that didn't seem like it worked out for them. But I said it before, and I'll say it again. Like, the Chargers game, that still is what it is. Still kind of tough, even if they did lose last time with the bye coming off. The game after that, you have the Panthers, who look terrible today and continue to look worse than they did at the start of the season. Then you have the Browns, who are pretty beat up right now. You have the Falcons, who just barely beat the Dolphins, I think, assuming Younghoe hit that field goal at the last minute. But, there's reason for optimism here. If you can carry this forward, your schedule isn't like, it isn't gonna kill you. That's not gonna be the thing that kills you here. You should be able to beat the Chargers if you play at your best. You should be able to beat the Browns if you play at your best. And the same is true of the Falcons and the Panthers. The questionable part of the schedule comes after that, where 3 of your 4 games are against the Bills, and the Titans. So you play the Bills twice in that stretch and the Titans once. So that's going to be tough. You need to go into that stretch at least above 500. Like, and probably better than that if you actually want to make the playoffs. So right now they sit at 3-4. If you go 4-0 over that stretch of games, then excuse me, guys, I got a little bit of a call there. But if you go 4-0 over that stretch of games, then all of a sudden, you're looking at 7-4. You're going into those games against the Bills where, hey, yeah, the Bills might be better than you, but you can at least look at those games and say, we kind of, depending on what the Bills do in these next few weeks, and what the Patriots do, you kind of feel like, hey, if we beat the Bills, we kind of control our own destiny. Like, we need to take care of business. This is what you need to do to make the playoffs. Those games end up having a playoff feel. So you can at least go into those weeks with a little bit of hope. So I will say, from the standpoint of wanting more from this Patriots team and wanting them to show more, you have to say they did today. I don't care what team it is, who we're talking about. If you put up 54 points in the NFL against anybody, like that's pretty impressive, and that's something to be excited about. So you got to give the Patriots a lot of credit there for doing that. And the running game looks pretty good today. I want to keep I'll talk about the game the way it is. I don't want to keep harping on the fact that it was the Jets. I mean, the running game total, what would it end up being? Over 140 yards. If you take down the kneel downs, it was over 150, which, at the end of the game. So 148, 4 rushing touchdowns, 2 for Taylor, 2 for Damian Harris. An incredible day from those guys. And also Brandon Bolden. Like, Brandon Bolden tied his career high for receptions, 6 receptions, 79 yards, a touchdown. Like, he was good today. So it is kind of incredible. We talked about before the season, the Patriots having to trade, Sony Michel and do all this stuff. And what ends up happening is we talked about the fact that this running back room is really deep. And then James White goes down and Damian Harris gets a little banged up. And you're like, oh, this is starting to look kind of, dangerous a little bit. That don't have the maybe running back depth we've hoped for. Mondre Stevenson keeps being inactive, and all this stuff with his fumbling issues. The fumble at the beginning of the season that he never seemed to recover from. And I mean, the running back depth, it seems like the room's been even deeper than we thought it'd be. I mean, with Bolden stepping up the way he has offensively. So it's the offense looked good today. And Jonnu Smith, before he had to go up with an injury, and you hope that it's not anything serious, because he really started to play like the tight end the Patriots need him to play like. And he doesn't need to, I think he was tracking for like 8 receptions, over 150 yards. Like, he doesn't need to do that every week. But if he can make plays like that, like he did today, like, that's all you could ask for. I mean, the guy played a quarter and already has his career high, or I shouldn't say career high, but he has his highest total as a Patriot in receiving yards. He had 52 receiving yards today, and the most he's had as a Patriot, and he left in the first quarter. So, Jonnu Smith, they were using him in different ways. They tried to use him on a rush. They were just getting the ball in his hands, a little bit of a screen pass too. Like, that's what they need to do. They paid Jonnu Smith big money. It's what we talked about last week. If you're going to pay this guy like a top tight end, use him like a top tight end. Get the ball in his hands. And they did that, and you have to feel good about that as well. As far as Mac Jones' performance, I mean, what more can you say about him? 307 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. I mean, just in terms of the quarterback battle, and I know maybe it's a little unfair because Zach Wilson wasn't out there. He was he left the game early with his injury and everything like that. But if you're the Jets right now, I mean, how are you not sitting there? Like, you've got to be kidding me. We went into the same draft as the Patriots, needing a quarterback. We picked 13 spots higher, and they still have the better quarterback? Because right now it's not a question. I mean, Mac Jones has been better than Zach Wilson, looks better than Zach Wilson. If you did a redraft right now, the Jets are picking second. It's hard to imagine they don't pick Mac Jones. The way he's played so far. And is Mac Jones playing that way if he's with the Jets? I don't think so. I don't know that to be true, but I don't think he is. But if you're the Jets, you got to be thinking, like, what unfortunate luck can we have that we've been looking for a quarterback for decades? I mean, really, when you look at it, unless you want to count Mark Sanchez or Ryan Fitzpatrick, like, we have been looking for a franchise quarterback forever. And the Patriots don't have one for a year, and now they're already back in a better spot than us. Like, I don't understand, if you're the Jets, how you even begin to reconcile that. The fact that, Mac Jones comes out today, 67% completion, 307 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. And not to mention his team dropped 54. I mean, he played better than even 2 touchdowns and no picks would describe, because they had a couple run-ins from, 4 rushing touchdowns on top of that. How many of those could he have thrown in if the Patriots just felt like doing that? So it really was incredible. Not to mention the fact that Kenneth Bourne had one of those passing touchdowns. So look, Mac Jones certainly had a great support from his supporting cast today. But if you're the Jets, you have to be sick. I mean, just sick to your stomach about what you just saw out there and what the Patriots were able to do today with Mac Jones, and feeling like they got the best of you, not only into in today's game, but in the draft again, because they were picking 15th, you were picking second, and they got the better quarterback. And so not only on the field, 2-0 against the Jets this year, but they smoked them in that category too. So I don't know how you feel good about that at all. If you're in New York, you have to be feeling absolutely terrible. It's Gear shouting out Bolden too, saying, how about Bolden? And the big thing about Brandon Bolden is that he needed to be the guy to replace James White, right? James White gets injured, and you feel like, who's going to be the pass catching back for the Patriots offense? Who's going to step up into that role? And everyone said that it was supposed to be Brandon Bolden. And you felt like, or at the very least, if it wasn't Brandon Bolden, then it was probably going to be, I guess it would probably end up being Damian Harris. It's like, can Damian Harris do the same things? I mean, we've used him in the passing game sparingly before, but can he play that James White role? And they put Brandon Bolden in there, and Brandon Bolden was excellent today. He hasn't been bad the rest of the time either this season. It's not like this game was a total anomaly. Certainly it was his best game, and maybe, you could say his best game overall as a Patriot. But Bolden's done a nice job replacing James White. I feel like you haven't really, felt White's loss because of what Bolden's been able to do for them out there. So far in the last few games for him, he had 3 receptions against New Orleans, 6 against Tampa Bay, 6 receptions on 6 targets against Tampa Bay, 4 receptions on 4 targets against Houston. 1 reception on 1 target against Dallas, but again, only 1 target. So, it's been a pretty impressive the way Bolden's been able to contribute to that offense. And today was another, great showing by him. I'm not sure off the top of my head how many. I know he had 6 receptions on the game. Let's see, 6 receptions they had on 7 targets today. So, and it's not like they're throwing him complex routes, but Mac Jones had a beautiful little ball that he floated up there on a little bit of screen pass. That was the one that Bolden was able to take into the end zone. But so you really look at his last 4 weeks in total. If you want to group them together, you could even throw the 5th one in there. But just the 4 weeks alone, it's been 17 receptions on 18 targets. That's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. And Bolden absolutely deserves a ton of credit for keeping this offense going. And you're saying that it's big for Mac's confidence as well. And, I think that's fair. I think it absolutely is. It's hard to say a 54-13 win where if the other quarterback is taken out of the game, due to injury. So you got to give a little bit of leeway there. But, that's why Zach Wilson was pulled. It's not like he was terrible or anything like that. Even though, it's before the injury, it's not like he was playing well. He was playing better than he did last time he played the Patriots, where it was like a pick every, 4 throws or something. 6'10", 51 yards, no picks. So Zach Wilson wasn't playing as bad as he had the last time, but it was what it was. And so he gets yanked out of the game because he's injured, and you go out there against the team that had the 2nd overall pick, and you toast them, and your team toasts them, and you get to sit on the bench at the end of the 4th quarter and let the backup go in because you played so well. So I feel like for any quarterback, when you get to sit back and kind of rest it up and say, hey, we're good. I can sit back and watch the rest of the game because we played so well. That's mission accomplished, and that has to make you feel good and has to be a confidence boost. On top of that, during this game, I think we saw Mac Jones do a few things where you looked at it and you said, he's kind of growing in this offense and becoming more comfortable. One of the big ones to me was when I think it was 3rd and 2 or something like that. And Mac Jones calls timeout, goes over to the sideline at the end of the first half because he didn't like the play and he doesn't like the look. So Mac Jones kind of taking it upon himself there to say, okay, no, I'm maybe a rookie, but I don't like this look. I am the quarterback. And that's been his mindset the whole time, is that I don't care that I'm a rookie. I'm the quarterback and I'm going to do what's best for the team. And the fact that he took it upon himself there to say, I don't like this look, I'm going to call a timeout. Let's, get something else, get a different sort of play call in here. That he deserves a lot of credit for that. And kind of, it should encourage you that he's already feeling comfortable enough to do those sorts of things. So as far as Mac goes today, passing great. I mean, he's, I think we're going to learn a lot about the Patriots over the next 4 weeks because, look, it's great to beat the Jets 54-13, but what does that mean for when you play these kind of, honestly, middle of the pack teams? Their next 4 games are all against middle of the pack teams that they should be as good as. After that, when it gets to the Titans and it gets to the Bills, I don't want to say I'll give them a pass, but I'll at least acknowledge that those teams are better than them right now. But the way that you've started the season 2-4. You have to win the rest of the games that we would even consider winnable. Like if you really want to make the playoffs. So we're looking at right now 3-4 on the season, and who knows what it's going to take in the AFC. I mean, the Raiders are 4-2 right now. They play later today, or they play right now, I guess, against the Eagles. The Bengals obviously won today, beating the Ravens. And so that next wild card spot is kind of like the Browns at 4-3. Now the Chiefs are 3-4. So is Mahomes healthy? What's happening there? So if we want to project it out, I mean, could 10-7 get you in? Could it take 9-8? I doubt it's going to be 9-8, but let's say it's 10-7. Okay. So let's say you need to get to 10 wins, already at 4 losses. If we're going to pencil in, I don't know, if they can steal a win against the Bills and the Titans, and next time they play the Bills, then great. Then all of this is moot, sort of, and you can go about your schedule, and you can make up for one of those losses if they have one. But right now, if you want to get to 10 wins and you lose against the Bills twice and the Titans, which they're not going to be favored in those games, you need to win the rest of your games that you're going to play this season, which are all winnable games. I mean, the Dolphins are terrible. You should have probably beat them in week 1. So when you play them at the end of the season, you got to win that game. The Jaguars, again, terrible. You got to beat those. You got to beat that team. The Colts haven't been so good this season. Who knows if they're going to turn it around too, but that's a game you have to win. In Indianapolis, so that one's going to be kind of hard. And then for your next 4, again, on the road, this is going to be hard, but if they're a playoff team, they have to be able to do it. Chargers, Panthers, Falcons, Browns. I'm not going to ask. I think asking them to go undefeated in the rest of those games is a lot, but that's what you're going to have to do unless you're going to beat the Bills at home or something. So if you do that, you just have to go 3-1 in that stretch. But I think that your chances of going 2-1 and then those 3 hardest games on the schedule that I mentioned, I think that's unrealistic and an unrealistic expectation, even if 2 of those 3 games are at home. So I'll give you 1 win there, I suppose, but you better go 3-1 in this next stretch because that's what we're talking about. That's what it's going to take. Phil saying Pat's beating the Chargers on Halloween. I think that, honestly, if I had to pick the game right now, I think the Chargers will be favored. The Chargers, I don't think that's any sort of revelation. But look, the Chargers, they don't have a great home crowd. They obviously, a lot of that stadium could be filled with Patriots fans. So we'll see. The Patriots took care of business easily last year. So I wonder what it's going to look like this year with new Chargers coaching. I would, I think that if I had to pick it, if you put a gun to my head, I mean, they beat this team 45-0, and besides the coaching, it's not a whole lot different. They should still be able to go in there and beat the Chargers, even though the Chargers are better. But I think that you still have to be able to go in there and beat that team. I just think that Bill Belichick kind of has their number right now, and I don't know that that's going to change. I mean, even if it's not 45-0, it should be 30-20, 30-23, whatever it is. The gap should not close that much. Just one season removed, especially considering the Patriots got a lot better and the Chargers kind of stayed the same besides the coaching. So I think I would pick the Patriots in that game. But I mean, it's hard to say that the Chargers aren't the better team right now, no matter what it is. I can't pronounce this. I don't know what you're trying to say. It's like Mac Tendaman is something nickname from Mac Tendaman something like that. I'm gonna drink it. Mac Tendaddyman. Mac Tendaddyman. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it's supposed to be. I'm sorry, I don't know what it's supposed to be saying. But you say playoff bound, and I just mentioned that. I just mentioned what the schedule looks like. So I mean, we'll see if they're able to do that or not. And it's Gears saying too, how's everyone feeling about the Chargers? I mean, I don't know how you're not confident in that game, like going into it, because when you look at how the game ended up last season and how the momentum they're kind of riding after that Jets game, they should feel good. They should feel good about it. I'm not going to say that they shouldn't. And J.C. Jackson, I mean, and the defense, and I know you played Mike White, so it's hard to get a read on that. But last week, after getting, completely just toasted by the Dallas offense, the Jets didn't do a lot against them. And I know it's the Jets and it's Mike White and stuff like that. But, J.C. Jackson's still on his pick. And so far this season, J.C. Jackson's only intercepted the Jets. So can I get a few of those, in the next few weeks against other teams? I mean, even if it is against the Browns and either a hobbled Baker Mayfield or Case Keenum, like I'll take it, or if it's against even what's the other team on the schedule that we're talking about? Not the Falcons or the Sam Darnold. Even if it's against Sam Darnold, who obviously he loves intercepting too. If he loves intercepting Jets, like that's the trend we're going to see from J.C. Jackson this whole season. It's not going to be interceptions all over the place. No, it's going to be you're intercepting the Jets or former Jets. So it'll be Sam Darnold. Yeah, sure, he'll pick him off and everything like that, and that's just how it'll go. But yeah, so that's a guaranteed pick in that game for J.C. Jackson. But today, the Patriots secondary, you give them credit. Kyle Duggar had the pick that was a little on the ball that was a little overthrown, and they, mostly held the Jets in check. That Corey Davis touchdown was a great catch, but a lot of these, a lot of the Jets receiving yards were dump offs. I mean, they dumped it off to Ty Johnson or Michael Carter right at the line of scrimmage, and they took care of most of the receiving duties. I mean, those guys alone had 14 of the Jets' 26 catches, so it was like. The rest of the time was Corey Davis with 4, Jamison Crowder with 4, and nobody else had more than 1. So, and that was, a lot of that was at the end of the game too. So, I'm not gonna say anything bad about the Patriots defense. They played really well. Obviously, throw some sacks in there too. The defense was able to accumulate in some big spots. Miles Bryant starting the game off with 1, and then Aquella, I think, got it before. I think it was at the end of the half. Aquella got his sack in there. So, they did well. They almost had another pick there at the end of the half too, while the Jets were throwing. So, an all-around great game. Shout out to Jacoby Myers too. Still hasn't scored that touchdown, but 5 for 44. He was solid in this one. And I really think, Jonnu Smith, if I hope he stays healthy, because if you bring him in next week and you start using him the same way you were using him at the beginning of this game, and I know you guys the offense just put up 54, but it can play even better. And I think, that obviously that number's inflated because it was the Jets and they were playing with a backup quarterback and all this stuff. But if they start integrating Jonnu Smith the way they're supposed to, and Hunter Henry's still there, who, by the way, like your 2 best offensive weapons today, one was out in the first quarter, the other had 2 for 23, 2 receptions for 23 yards. He did find the end zone too, and you still put up this amount of points. So I think the rushing game was, something we looked at early on in the season and said, this might be the strength of this team. And then it hadn't gone that way for the first few weeks. So we thought, what's the answer on offense? And the offensive line wasn't good enough. So you thought, how is this team ever going to be good enough rushing in the football and stuff like that? And as it's turned out, that running game's kind of come back around. So, Damian Harris was really great today. Obviously didn't fumble the ball, which is first and foremost, perhaps the most important thing that Damian Harris was able to do. But even still, talking about over 100 yards, the 2 touchdowns, everything like that. And now that's his second 100-yard game of the season, or third 100-yard game of the season, back-to-back, with the one against Dallas, 100 yards against Miami, and now the game here, which was his best game as a Patriot, quite frankly. And I don't know, don't take that lightly, because he's played the Jets 3 times before and he hasn't done this. So he played amazing, and he deserves a lot of credit for what he was able to do today. 7.6 yards per carry. Just to put that in perspective, last time Damian Harris played the Jets in week 2, it was, 3.88 yards per carry on 16 rushing attempts. So, he got a healthy workload in that game, but did not do what he did today. So he was very special today. You got a lot of credit. Terry letting me know what he's saying. Mac 10 the Demon. Thank you, Terry. I couldn't pick up on that. I thought it was like tendon, something with a tendon. I don't know, but Mac 10 the Demon, is that his new name? Did I miss the boat on this? I haven't heard that one yet, so maybe I missed something there. But Mac Jones, yeah, certainly played well today, and you have to wonder. I don't know, because when you look at I want to pull up the Rookie of the Year odds really quickly, because we talked about Mac Jones. I think right now it's Mac Jones and Jamar Chase, and like it's hard to imagine that it's not going to be Jamar Chase the way he's playing. I mean, he's just been amazing, had another amazing day today. But I think last time I checked, Mac Jones was still the favorite or close. Let's see what it is right now. I think this is updated. Jamar Chase plus 300, Mac Jones plus 450. That is not after today's game. That's going into today's game. So Mac Jones a little better than 5-1. Jamar Chase 3-1. In my opinion, as good as Mac Jones has been, it's hard. Like, it'd be kind of stupid if he won it. I mean, you would just be giving it to him because he's the best quarterback and quarterbacks matter so much. And it's like Jamar Chase might be, on his way to being a Hall of Famer the way he's played so far in his rookie year. I don't care if it's early to say that. Like, he has been unreal. And so it's got to be him. As much as I love Mac Jones and wish that, he had a chance at it, it's like, unless something happens that's crazy to Jamar Chase, there is no chance you can give it to Mac over Jamar Chase. He's just been too good. So anyway, guys, thank you for joining us for this postgame show. We're going to cut this one a little bit short since there's not a lot to talk about after a game like that. Not much meat on the bone after a 54-point trouncing. But hopefully next week we'll be talking about a better win against the Chargers, which would be their best win of the season so far. By far, wouldn't even be close. So if they're able to do that, then certainly we'll have a lot to talk about, and finally get back to 500, which is the big thing there. 2 wins against the Jets and 1 against the Texans. Again, all bad teams. Like, those 3 teams are terrible. There were 3, and let's say 3. The Jets twice in there. So those 2 teams are the 2 worst teams you'll face all season. Like, they're, unless you want to throw the Jaguars in there, then go ahead and put the Jaguars on that list as well. Those are 3 of the 4 worst teams you'll play this year. And, yeah, you should have won those games. So let's see over the next 4 games. No, I don't think there's any, one I look at, unless, maybe if the Browns are fully healthy. But other than that, there's not one of those games I look at over the next 4 and say, that's a tough ask. Individually, and again, 3 or 4 on the road's tough. But individually, you should be able to win all those games. Those are winnable games. So let's see them go do it. I mean, again, I'll say this. If it was in a nutshell that you had to go on the road and win 3 games, I was asking you to win 3 or 4. In a nutshell, I would say that's difficult. And that's a big ask, and you can't ask a team to do that. When you lost your first 4 home games of the season, that's the bed you make for yourself. So if you're going to lose at home, you better win on the road. And that's the situation they put themselves in. And hey, for as tough as road games are, and typically we view them as tougher games in the NFL, and they are, whatever. They're 2-0 on the road right now. 2-0 on the road, 1-4 at home. 0-4 at home before today. So maybe they're a better road team than a home team. I don't know. Maybe that's just the way it's going to play out. Maybe they had, obviously they had some tough games at home. The Saints could be a playoff team. Obviously the Buccaneers and now I'm blanking on Cowboys throw in there. They're both good teams. So hey, you had a tough schedule at home a little bit. So I'll cut you a little bit of slack there, maybe. But okay, if you're going to lose at home, you got to win on the road. That's the end of the story. So hopefully they're able to do that and take care of business. Terry, I'll let you close it off. I think the key to Pat's winning next week against the Chargers will be the offensive line. If Matt gets enough time, we'll be fine. It's a great point, Terry, because I think the offensive line, you could also say, had their best game today. I mean, Mac had a few times where he was under pressure early and, took a few sacks, but those were mostly on blitzes from the Jets. So, it wasn't too much of the offensive line's fault, just protection. You got to be better at calling out the protections there. But, I mean, overall, if the offensive line can play well and the running game's moving and Mac Jones has time in the pocket, that's the whole deal. That's really what I think is going to make or break this season for this team. I mean, that's what it's all about. That was supposed to be the strength of their offense. Their best unit offensively was supposed to be the offensive line. When it wasn't, their offense was terrible. Now it is, and they put up 54 points. So, if that needs to be, there need more consistent play there. And if they can play well, I think you're absolutely right. They should take care of business. All right. Thank you guys so much for joining the show this time. Be sure to come back next week for that Chargers game. That's going to be a late one, so be sure to be there for that before Sunday Night Football. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll catch you on the next